He is an absolute workhorse.
He's been quite vocal recently, hasn't he? Saying, if we're going to be losing all these players, I'm concerned.
Well, it's a strange one to me.
He's desperate, absolutely desperate.
It seems like a match made in heaven.
They'd only entertain it at a huge offer.
I'm going to throw out a bit of maybe a hot take.
Hello and welcome to Transfers Exposed. I'm Pugh from Sun Sport, and alongside me is one of our Chelsea reporters for this season. It's Lloyd, Canfield. Lloyd, wonderful to have you with us, mate. How are you getting on?
It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and this is your exclusive press pass into the hottest transfer stories straight from the Sun Sport newsroom.
Absolutely, mate. That is exactly what it is. And of course, we're with you every Tuesday and Friday until the transfer window slams shut. And that is, at time of speaking, just next Monday. That is extremely soon, September the 1st. Lots of clubs panicking to get those deals done, and we will be covering all of them, the facts and figures behind each and every transfer here on Transfers Exposed. And we've got a deadline day special, so keep an eye on Sun Football and Sun Sport across all of socials next week.
Very much looking forward to that, Will. But in this episode, we're going to be talking about Conor Gallagher and the Premier League sides interested in taking him off Atlético Madrid's hands.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, Premier League reunion, it looks like, for Gallagher. We've covered it this morning. Tom Barkley writing in our Football Confidential column, where you can find the latest transfer gossip every day in the paper, as well as at Sun Sport Online, of course. The intro, Tom writes, Crystal Palace and other Premier League clubs have asked if Conor Gallagher is available at Atlético Madrid. Now, funny signing, this one. Crystal Palace obviously quite keen to bolster their midfield after losing Eze to Arsenal. Different position, of course. He had a fantastic loan spell at Selhurst Park, did Gallagher, in the 21-22 season. Patrick Vieira in charge, 8 goals in 34 games in the Premier League. He hasn't been a permanent fixture at Atlético Madrid for that long. I think £36 million it was last summer. And the sense is, although he played loads for Atletico last season, 50 games in all competitions, 4 goals and 6 assists in that time. This season, he struggled a little bit at the beginning of the campaign, much loved though he is in Spain. Atletico don't really want to see him go. They want him part of the squad and don't at all think that he couldn't be a key part of the starting 11. Therefore, they'd only entertain a huge offer if he was going to make his way back to the Premier League. They wouldn't be interested in a loan. What do you make of all this one?
Well, it's a strange one to me because I remember when he first went to Atlético Madrid, he was absolutely adored by their fans, and it seems like a match made in heaven. He is an absolute workhorse in midfield. He's good going forwards. He's pretty good going backwards. It seems perfect for Diego Simeone's style of play and how intense he likes his sides to be. So it seems like a perfect match in the Atletico Madrid midfield. So it does surprise me a little bit that he's already being linked with a move back to the Premier League. But at the same time, when you discuss teams like Crystal Palace, they are in need of a midfielder. As you mentioned, Eze left. I don't think he's necessarily going to play the Eze role, but in midfield, they've got Adam Wharton, who's absolutely brilliant. For my money, the English version of Pedri. And if you partner him with a workhorse like Conor Gallagher instead of Will Hughes, who, as much as he does a job, he's not to the level or to the standard of a player like Conor Gallagher. If they can bring him back, a bit of a homecoming, a bit more of a good feeling at Crystal Palace, I think that just adds up perfectly, as well as it does at Atletico Madrid. He just fits in that side brilliantly, and it does surprise me that he'll leave Atletico so soon if he does make the move, because it seems like a perfect fit there as well. But it would be interesting to see him come back, and if he does come back, where he does go. Yeah,
I mean, it's big money on the table, of course, or Crystal Palace would need to put big money on the table if they're going to bring Gallagher back. Oliver Glasner, Crystal Palace boss, has been quite vocal recently, hasn't he? Saying, if we're going to be losing all these players, I'm concerned if we don't bring any in. The main two, of course, being Gahey and Eze. Gahey, who expect to go to Liverpool as well. Gallagher came off at half-time in Atletico's league opener this season. They lost 2-1 to Espanyol, and then was a second-half sub in Saturday's draw against Elche. So I think there are concerns among Gallagher's camp and Gallagher himself about the amount of game time he will get this season and how integral he will be at Atletico compared to the impact he made last season, as we've covered. I feel like we sort of Kieran Trippier as well went out there, didn't it? It always feels, I don't know if it's perhaps wrong, he's only 25, Conor Gallagher as well. It always feels like these things, they always feel temporary. They never feel like when these players go there, they're going to see out their careers there. Gallagher, though, is desperate, absolutely desperate to play regularly this season in, of course, a World Cup year. So there's no suggestions that he's particularly unhappy in Spain or with the lifestyle with the club or anything like that. It's more his main focus would be he will entertain a move if, as it appears from the opening sort of couple of games of the season, his chances of regular game time at Atletico are going to be impacted. Can you sort of, do you make sense of that? And you sort of feel like, given all the other clubs that we're talking about being in for him as well, like Newcastle had inquired previously, but since bought Jacob Ramsey, West Ham are in desperate need of a midfielder, and a Conor Gallagher type would be exactly what they need, some legs and pace and energy. Yeah. Brighton have also been linked previously as well. Where would you say, even though Crystal Palace are sort of likely the front runners at the moment, where would you say out of those clubs would be best for him if, as we understand, game time in a World Cup year is his priority?
I think Crystal Palace is the best fit for him. I'm sure he's not entirely unhappy at Atletico Madrid, but that's been a feature of Conor Gallagher's career so far, in the sense of when he was at Chelsea, he was constantly in search of more game time because they're constantly bringing in new players, Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, and he was kind of crowded out of that team and then looking for a place to play more football. That ended up being Atletico Madrid.
Yep.
And now it seems like the same thing is kind of happening to him there. And I think Crystal Palace has always been something of a home for Conor Gallagher. He just seems to fit in there. So it would be a bit unusual, I suppose, for him to come back to Crystal Palace again and almost fight for then the pinnacle of his career. As you mentioned, he's 25. These should be the years now where he is trying to establish himself in that England team for next year's World Cup. And he's a player who has the quality to play for England. Even if he's not in the starting 11, he has the quality to be in a squad for the World Cup and provide stuff to the team that potentially other players don't really have in that England midfield. Yeah. So I do think Crystal Palace, out of the teams you mentioned, is the best fit. West Ham probably need him the most.
He plays every week, from a club point of view.
Trouble this season, I'm sure you can admit. And they do need to sign some players if they're going to stay up.
They are desperate to sign a midfielder. That needs to happen,
I think for West Ham, he would be brilliant. Makes perfect sense. I don't know if it's the best move for him because he will get game time, but I don't think he's going to be in a team that's necessarily pushing up the league. And if he does want to compete for that World Cup spot, you need to be pushing on at least. We've seen how even Eze struggled to get into England teams and camps, and he has been a mainstay and a brilliant player for Palace over the years. And that's probably what held him back a little bit is, well, he's playing for Palace. The same with Adam Wharton.
I don't think West Ham either are like we say, Newcastle already went out and got Ramsey, so it doesn't. I think the interest has cooled significantly there. I don't think West Ham are in a position willingly to spend the sort of money that would be required, which would be about 40 million quid to bring him from Spain. Crystal Palace, on the other hand, unlike West Ham, are going to be very cash rich this summer. As far as PSR goes, obviously the deals will be staggered. But if Gahey and Eze leave, there's thereabouts 100 million quid there, just shy, in transfer revenue. 40 million pounds for Conor Gallagher wouldn't seem like too much of a stretch. So I quite agree. What did you? £147,000 a week he's getting, by the way, at Atletico, which would be not an insignificant sum for Crystal Palace to play. But I think if the figures can be there or thereabouts, what he's achieving at the moment, with, as we've already mentioned, the desire for game time in a World Cup year, I think you sort of wave goodbye to 10 or 15 grand a week or so if that was more guaranteed. Just 67 minutes so far in those league competitions. Just talk to me a little bit about his time at Chelsea and that style of play, because it always felt like he wasn't quite at the level that Chelsea wanted to be at. And like you said, Caicedo and Fernandez, he sort of I don't think many football fans would argue that those two are the level above Conor Gallagher. But there would also be those who say, and I mean this with all due respect to West Ham and Crystal Palace and Brighton, as we've mentioned there would be those suggestions that perhaps those are actually one below the level and that he's sort of in that Tottenham, Aston Villa-y style, Newcastle, even league in the middle. What do you sort of think as far as his all-round game goes?
I'm going to throw out a bit of maybe a hot take that I actually think he'd be fairly well suited to Man United in midfield, in Amorim's system. I think
we told you on Transfers Exposed, of course, they were looking at Carlos Baleba for 90 million quid. So yeah, carry on.
And he's almost, I suppose, a cheaper and obviously older alternative to Baleba in the sense that he's really hardworking, can go forwards and can come back. He's not going to be the anchor in midfield. And I think what we've seen with United so far is they're playing this almost pivot of Casemiro and Fernandes with no in-between. Fernandes obviously brilliant going forwards, not so great coming back. Casemiro pretty good coming backwards, but not so great going forwards and definitely losing his legs a bit. Right. Conor Gallagher provides legs in any midfield that he's going to walk into. I do agree with what you're saying in the sense I don't think he is a Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool quality of midfielder. And there was a chance when he was at Chelsea, it was always like, well, he could become that level of midfielder, but it doesn't seem to have happened at Atletico Madrid. And
I mean, he would probably argue that, I suppose, integral like for their season last season. But I don't mind the Man United shout at all, actually. Do you feel that it's a sort of transfer Manchester United would look at? I almost don't feel, it doesn't feel sort of exotic or fashionable enough. Although I would say his stock in the fashion and cool stakes has increased since going to Atletico. Do you know
massively.
What I mean? Yeah. Why don't you think that the United would fancy him?
I think, like you said, he's just not their almost style of signing with.
Well, because he's like industrious and hardworking. Yeah, and he's
not a hipster's choice or a cool signing to make like a Baleba is. He's not going to cost you 100 million and come in and be a player. Also, I suppose from Man United's perspective, looking forward, he's not a player that's going to be in your midfield for the next 10 years.
He's 25, but yeah, not 10 years. No,
he's 25 and he's good, but he's not going to revolutionise things. But I don't think Man United necessarily for the next maybe 2-3 seasons are revolutionising things. I think he is in the same mould of maybe these players are a bit higher quality than him, but Cunha and Mbeumo, they've taken from, albeit good teams, but lesser teams in terms of stature in Wolves and Brentford. And it's the kind of signing that I think would make sense for Man United. And those kind of signings typically work really well in the Premier League. When you're a bigger club taking from a smaller club for maybe a lesser fee than what you'd pay in Europe, it just seems to work. And he's obviously got that Premier League experience. I think he would come into Man United's team and perform really well. The only thing I'm not sure about with Man United is where he really fits in, because I think he's more of a midfielder who likes to play in a 3. As I said, he's not a midfield anchor and he's not an attacking midfielder. He's that in-between kind of number 8, hard-working, industrious type of player. So I'm not sure totally if he does fit in at Man United, but I think it's a transfer they should consider or at least take a look at, because if he's available for that kind of fee, he's a good alternative, I think, to the likes of Baleba.
Yeah, quite agree. As you mentioned Adam Wharton, of course. We told you about Real Madrid's interest in him on Transfers Exposed last week. So Crystal Palace fans, Atletico fans, Chelsea fans, Conor Gallagher fans, let us know what you think of all the transfers that we've discussed, all of those clubs, where you think would be a good move for him and which club needs him the most in the comments.